And then I'm like, you know what? That's not surprising. GenAI by definition doesn't know how to do math. One of my daughter's friends say, "This is the answer. This is the answer." And then I was like, "I've seen that answer before. That's from ChatGPT, and that's wrong."
Okay.
Even so, GenAI has nothing to do with truth. Like the way that GenAI works and the LLMs work is that the only thing that they care about as an algorithm is to is effectively to predict what should come next. GenAI is actually a big liar, right? If you ask for specific data points, half of the time you can't. The answer is wrong because it's just trying to predict what you want and just give you that to you. So,
Wow.
but people take it at face value. Oh, GenAI gave it to me. Looks okay, it must be true. Even so, it's not.
Your kids, have they seen the articles?
No, they don't have LinkedIn, so they haven't seen the articles.
Okay, so and where else can we see the articles? Only on LinkedIn?
Yes, right now the articles are only on LinkedIn. I'm working with a. I've been tapped to come up with a chapter for a book soon.
Nice.
We'll see how that goes.
Wow.
But the book is about generative AI. So
Mhm.
obviously, so but I do talk about my experience with my kids on that too.
Yeah.
So specifically, like I think one of the articles I start with that example about my daughter actually needed to solve a math problem and kind of being stuck there. And then her friends starting to use Gen AI to solve the problem for them.
Okay.
And starting saying, "Oh, this is the answer. This is the answer." I'm like, and that, yeah, I solved the problem by hand. I say, no, no, this is the real answer. It's just that the teacher, so they were trying to fill that problem online, and the teacher didn't put the wrong answer. It was a mistake, right? So they are trying to find the answer, and they were not able to find that because ultimately they are trying to compare with what the teacher had put, and the teacher made a mistake and put the wrong number. So they kept on going at it, like trying to find different answers. And I did it by hand. Said, no, this is the right answer. It's just that yeah, the teacher had made a mistake. But yeah, I said, fine, just to verify, let's use Gen AI. I think we used ChatGPT at the time to verify that I got the right answer. So and Gen AI has the problem, and Gen AI gave the right steps to solve the problem, but gave a different answer different. And then I'm like, you know what? That's not surprising. Gen AI by definition doesn't know how to do math. That's not the thing. That's not how it works. So, but I said I'm going to double check my numbers anyway, just to be sure. And obviously my numbers were right. Like I said, Gen AI doesn't know how to calculate. Um, but then one of my daughter's friends say, "This is the answer. This is the answer." And then I was like, "I've seen that answer before. That's from ChatGPT, and that's wrong."
Okay.
So so I use that example because for me, obviously they're in seventh grade. Like it's not that they know better, but it's very easy for people to just trust
Mm,
what Gen AI is giving you as truth.
mm,
Even so, Gen AI has nothing to do with truth. Like the way that Gen AI works and the LLMs work is
mhm.
that the only thing that they care about as an algorithm is is effectively to predict what should come next.
Adaptive.
It's a big forecasting tool, right? It just you ask for a prompt, they are trying to guess what should come after that prompt, and that's the answer, right? And what token by token. That's how it works under the hood, which means that Gen AI has no notion of truth, has no notion of what's right or what's wrong. It's not about calculation, even so everything is math based on how they do that, right? It's not about calculating a result or anything. Just try to figure out, okay, what should be the next token I put in that sentence, effectively. And which means that, like I said, Gen AI is actually a big liar, right? If you ask for specific data points, half of the time you can't, the answer is wrong. Right, so don't ask it for truth because it's not about truth, right? Gen AI is not, Gen AI just want to give you what you want. Doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. Because it's just trying to predict what you want and just give you that to you.
Wow.
But people take it at face value. Oh, General gave it to me. Looks okay. It must be true. Even so, it's not. And so that's some of the articles that I have is describing how GenAI can be wrong in many ways,
Yeah.
and therefore how to be careful about that, right? How to keep that critical thinking about, it's still a great tool. You should use it. You have to use it now, I will argue. But at the same time, you want to be critical about the results as well.
So what is the difference between AI, machine learning, and Gen I?
So AI is the overall field. So
Yeah.
for example, in college, I had a specialty in AI,
Yeah.
but that was a long time ago. It was very different from what we're talking about today in terms of AI, right? AI back then means doing a lot of Prolog and Lisp and other languages like that, and they're
Mhm.
doing like alpha beta algorithm, like back then I did intelligence for like an embedded robot,
Mhm.
standard robot for robotic competition.
Okay.
That's a very different type of AI that we will do today. So that AI is overall the field. It's every time that we want the machine to think in some shape or form. So back then, the big thing was expert systems. That's what we call it, meaning that if you have different causes, then there is an inference you can make towards a solution. And so you put a lot of rules, and then based on that, you detect a solution. So that's what we did back then. Then later on, much later on, actually, uh, people started doing like machine learning,
Yeah.
which is effectively it's the ability to train models across a certain set of attributes that you care about. And you train them so that the machine kind of put different coefficients for each of the attributes. And so that then when in real life they say, oh, here is an input, then that's going to fire a certain set of coefficient. And then based on the attributes that they put on each one, we'll say, and therefore this is good or this is bad or something like that. So, and machine learning is used a lot for personalization, recommendations, things like that, right? So be able to, you go to website, say, oh, if you like this, you're going to like that, right? So these kind of things. So that's machine learning. But ultimately it's data scientists training models so for the model to come up with certain like map, if you want, of how things or how the world should be,
Mhm.
and then so that then you can start using that to feed data and see where it ends on that map, and then based on that take action. So that's machine learning. LLMs or Gen AI, so large language models, I will agree it's the same thing. There is some differences, like in the sense of using transformers and other techniques, but ultimately think about doing that. But instead of looking at 12 attributes,
Mhm.
now you're looking at billions of attributes.
Okay.
So, and therefore, instead of looking at some trained data, which is like a couple of thousands data points, now you're talking about trillions of data points, right? The whole internet has data points. And so, or at least millions. So that's the difference, right? It's the scale. Effectively, there are some different technique under the hood, like I say about how you use transformers on the prompt to understand which tokens are important
Mhm.
more than others. It can differentiate words that are more important than others.
Yeah.
So it can focus its thinking about that. But ultimately, the difference between LLMs and machine learning is really the scale, what you are doing.
So when it comes to ChatGPT, what would you call ChatGPT as? Is it part of machine learning or is it part of
No,
the
it's a LLM. It's a
yeah.
large language model.
Okay. Mhm.
No, it's definitely an LLM. Machine learning models, the funny thing is that people don't get exposed to them, right? Companies get exposed to them, right? So companies use a lot of machine learning
Yeah. Yeah.
under the hood for all kinds of things, and my company included.
Yeah.
We do a lot of machine learning. We have a lot of data scientists that do that. Uh, the difference between, I think, what's made it like people talk about AI is for me AI and what we're doing is people say, oh, it's a revolution. No, it's an evolution, right? It's we didn't start from nowhere, right? Yeah, LLM then didn't just come out of the blue like magically one day, right? Yeah, like I said, there are different steps in the evolution to get there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that that's the first time I believe that people are directly exposed to it.
Mm.
Before, it was running under the hood. Like your people didn't see that. Say, oh, it's nice that you're about these shoes. Oh, it's nice that you recommend that other shoes that looks good as well. I should buy that. I should buy that shoe too,
Yeah.
right? But people will not connect that. About yeah, under the hood, there is actually a machine learning model
Yeah.
that process all the data about you to figure out that your next purchase should be that other thing over there. People don't see that, right? They don't get exposed to that directly. Versus the difference with LLMs is that people have direct access
Mm.
to those tools now, right? You have direct access to ChatGPT, to Gemini, to Claude of Anthropic, to DeepSeek. All these machine language, large language models are accessible for people to use, and they start seeing a lot of the value, and it's not a niche anymore. It's something that's very much mainstream.
Can I, for my own learning, okay, just to understand.
So,
So, machine learning, do you think the ones that I've seen some experiments happening around where they are using the robots to do the surgery, let's say, or in manufacturing
mhm.
firms where the robots are actually doing certain
Yes,
tasks, right? Replacing human, and then we see
yes,
that many times. Is that part of machine learning? Yes. Or
yes.
yeah, okay. Like I thought.
Yes, I mean there are different machine learning. It depends what you call it because there are also neural networks which are not recent either. For me, I put them in the same kind of variation, even so I call them as machine learning, even so they are slightly different things. But yes, effectively. But the limitation with machine learning or neural network is that because they are trained on a limited set of data, on a limited set of attributes, mean that they can only be good for specialized tasks.
Okay. Hmm. Yeah.
Right? But they can be very good at that, but on specialized tasks,
Yeah.
meaning that for at the company that I am, right, we get a bunch of sensor data. Based on the sensor data, we're able to say, are you speeding? Are you braking too hard? Are you accelerating too hard? Right, Argo is getting distracted. But each of these things are different machine learning models. There is not like one model that can figure out everything, right? Each
Yeah.
of these things,
Yeah.
different models we run against the same data to get different insights.
Yeah.
Right, so that's the thing about machine learning is that you don't do it's not one thing that can do everything for you.
Yeah.
LLMs, because it's trained across these billions of attributes, means that uh, effectively it can do a lot of different things for you. Right, its usage can be fairly broad.
Mm-hmm.
And now I will argue that because of hallucinations, it makes it hard, and therefore there is an opportunity maybe to go back to limiting its use to more specialized use case if we really wanted to do it that very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Versus right now, it does a good job across a bunch of different things, but it's not perfect. And so But yeah, so that's, everything robots, everything like that up to now was more that machine learning model.
Yeah.
But I think, progressively Gen AI will even go there, right? Yeah, because right now what we are saying is that we can actually run LLMs, so Gen AI models on
Mm.
your phone, for example.
Mm.
So we can do that now, which
Okay.
means that if we can run it on your phone, we can run it on a robot CPU. That's
Yeah.
fine too, or GPU. That's fine too. That's becoming possible now. Right? That we're able to take something that's very big and make it small enough now we can run it on a single computer, effectively. So it's very interesting. We'll see how that evolves, right?
The I see that the AI landscape is quite huge, right? And it's rapidly changing. And
Mm-hmm.
indeed, like the recent one is the DeepSeek that we heard of, which is much
Mm-hmm.
better than Gemini and then ChatGPT. And we have friends talking, okay, have you had that? Have you seen it? I said, no, but I'm happy with ChatGPT. But no, you have to learn DeepSeek because the responses are much more deeply researched, you know. But then, yeah, as a layman, I mean, somebody who wants to probably use AI, ChatGPT, but for a normal routine work and not get into highly technical stuff, I think this is
Mm-hmm.
confusing, and that's why the reason I wanted to ask, like, hey, what is the difference between AI, machine learning, and generative AI? Like, I got that, okay, fairly, but
Yeah,
I think
it's
with
good.
you,
It just, it is changing. But one piece of warning is that I do believe that your Gen AI will trigger a transformation.
mm,
I don't believe, there are lots of technologies that happened before that. Like, we had the crypto wave and
mm,
other waves before, right? So, and it's not just, and you could argue, well, who cares about crypto now? It's still a thing, but it's not as huge of a buzzword as it used to be. I think that your Gen AI, I'm sure we're in some kind of bubble right now,
yeah,
but I do believe that Gen AI is here to stay. And I do believe that you're just like for the internet, you have people that can use the internet and people that can't.
mhm,
I think Gen AI will become the same way. You have people that can use Gen AI effectively and people that can't use Gen AI
yeah,
effectively. And
yeah,
so for me, it could create another kind of divide, effectively. And that's what I'm worried about, especially with my, I'm in software. So with my software engineers,
mhm,
is that making sure they are getting exposed to Gen AI. They are using Gen AI because in a few years from now, if you don't have that exposure, then maybe you'll have a very hard time finding a job altogether, right? So I do believe that it's not just a tool; it's an important tool that for your own career you want to be exposed to in some ways.
yeah, expose and maybe upskill, or maybe with the new innovations coming up, probably also reskill, because there's so many changes that it's difficult to keep on say that, okay, I've learned something about AI and I'm an expert and I understand how it works, but all of a sudden in a few years time, I don't know if there's an evolution and something new popping up, you again have to learn, and that's how you have to keep yourself in the market and really have a career. Otherwise you have to change your career altogether, I think so, from tech.
Exactly. So I mean, the thing about Gen AI is that nobody is an expert
Yeah,
because the kind of the weird truth about it is that people understand the concept behind Gen AI, right? Your people that created Gen AI obviously understand very much how it works, except they don't, right? They don't understand why at the small scale you're not getting good results, and the large scale you get such fantastic results. They don't understand the scale aspect, what makes it, how the scale
yeah,
of the training, or the scale of the attributes make it so great. Right. So there is some mystery there, where that we haven't fully solved yet either. So it's a kind of this weird technology where we don't know everything there is to know about it, even for the people who created it. So just
I think that's why
but it works. Great.
for the moment,
Perfect.
it's complicated, and I think it will remain complicated and complex,
Yes.
as you said, mystery as well, to a large extent, in fact. Well,
I mean, you could argue it's not surprising. Like, it's a lot of that happens in medicine, where you stumble upon molecules or medications.
mhm,
It seems to do something great, and why is that? Not sure, but it does a trick. It's like, okay, good. And as long as there is no like big side effects, then
yeah,
let's use that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there's a lot of that.
That's a good analogy that you got again. You see, because you seem to find the connection between the everyday moment and then the connection with the tech that you make. It's amazing. I like it. Yeah.
Thank you. I do believe that that's how, because as a technologist, right? At this point, like in my previous job, I was a CTO, so I reported to a CEO who was not technical, who is not technical, and she didn't, yeah, she knew about technology, but not she could not code or anything.
Yeah.
So ultimately, at that point, you need to be able to build a bridge. Effectively, and I think that a lot of that is one understanding what people care about, right? Because depending on your role in the company, you are going to have different priorities, or you are going to view the world in a certain way. Like
Mhm.
if you're a CFO, you care about the finances, you care about revenue and cost, and everything else is kind of whatever, like sound bites. But what you care is that how much is going to cost me, what's the ROI. That's what you care about, and everything else is funny words. And if that's the case, and I need something from the CFO to buy for me, or to give me a budget for, right? Then me, okay, well, that's how I need to present to them. Is that I need to present how much it costs, what kind of ROI do we expect, and so even so, as an engineer, that's not something I really care about, but I know the CFO cares about it, so I should do that. But same thing when you are talking with people that are not technologists by nature,
Mhm.
how best do you present concepts that are technology concepts, right? Because ultimately, I need to budget to do something that's very much technology related, or there is a problem with the technology. How do I explain that to my CEO, to my CFO, about the fact that now I need more money than what I asked for? And I think it's part of it is speaking their language, like understanding what they care about and be able to express yourself in a way that they can understand effectively. And I think that these analogies help, right, get those concepts across effectively.
I think I'll give you an example of it again. So with this that you said, like how to explain to a non-technical person, right? How with all this AI and the Gen I, how does it help in their everyday life? I have a friend who's been doing some course, learning something, and for her, which means that she needs to make notes of the lecturer, right? And it is hard. She said, like, for 1 hour, I have to really focus. And there it is. She used the ChatGPT, which
Mhm.
made notes of the lecture, which she could not even think of, explaining some points. And that worked wonders. And then she realized, even as a normal, non technical person, it is such a huge help.
Mhm.
And there, as a non-technical person, we don't know exactly what is better, whether it is Gemini or ChatGPT or DeepSeek, right? For us, what we see is even just with basic ChatGPT, you get the information and it is big help that solves the purpose of having ChatGPT, and that's enough.
No, I mean, I think that's true, right? That's why, in a lot of companies that I work at, like TripAdvisor, Wayfair, even,
Yeah.
CMT now, right? One of the big tenets is to be very, like, customer obsessed, right? So we need, you have to be in the shoes of the customer so that you can give products, you can deliver solutions that are going to help those customers. Because ultimately, the way that you are going to make money is by helping the customer, and
Yeah.
therefore customer willing to pay for that solution. Right? So be able to be in the shoes of the customer, whoever that is. Right? Customers don't even have to be something external. Right? If you're on the platform team, your customers are more likely employees at the company that you're trying to serve or to help in some ways. Right? But really be in the shoes of those customers, be able to understand their pain points so that then we can come up with the right solutions to help them. Uh, is it's really what every company needs to be doing, right? Yeah, there are a lot of companies that are focused on, oh, we want to grow revenue 20% this year, and then that's their goal. But that's not actionable. Like, what do I do to grow the business 20%?
Yeah.
Right? What are the themes? What do I go after? And that's a big answer to that question is, well, what does the customer want? What are their pain points? How do we believe we can help them in different ways? And so I think that's what I like when I create a vision
Mm-hmm.
for what I want is not just to say, oh, we need to do better and faster. It's more, and so that we can make more money. It's more like, as a result, what do we need to, what pain points are we trying to solve?
Yeah.
So that will grow the business effectively. And that's how we get more money at the end of the day.
That brings me to the question. With Cambridge Mobile Telematic, you work in the division of mobile sensing, right?
Mhm.
What exactly is that?
So Cambridge Mobile Telematics, their main business,
Yeah.
right, how they started, and they are still very much a big part of their business, is to to have a solution where we can to work with insurance companies, car insurance companies, and effectively to understand how well the people that are being insured, the drivers, the car drivers,
Mm.
are driving, so
Yeah.
that the car drivers can get a discount on their car insurance.
Okay.
Because if the driver drives safely, they are less likely to be in an accident, and therefore, from an insurance company standpoint, they have less risk, right? And therefore they have less. They will have. It will be less likely for them to have to pay for a crash
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
for damages of any kind, right? And as a result for that, because we can give the data that prove that the driver is a safe driver, as a result of that, the insurance company are willing to effectively lower the premiums of the insurance for that driver.
Interesting.
So, but how we do that, there are multiple solutions. One of the big solution is that you install an app on your phone as a driver,
Okay.
right? And that app usually is the insurance app. So if you have State Farm, you have a State Farm app. If you have uh, Progressive, you have a Progressive app, whatever, right? But within that app is a component that's that's effectively the mobile sensing component that we created in there. And that component, its whole job is to capture sensor data about your driving
Okay.
so that we can process that and based on that use machine learning and Gen AI to understand to be able to effectively come up with insights into how well your driving is. Based
Wow.
on that, you get a score, and based on the score, you get a discount. That's the solution.
Well,
Uh,
that's
so
a very
that's why.
innovative thing. That's a very innovative thing, and I think this is what happens when you really have an idea, how to use AI and Gen AI in that. Then you can really. It is a big help, right? In a daily life like this, just through an app, what it does is something. It's much
And
more.
it's an opt-in too, meaning that you are not trying to do anything like sneaky or anything. Like the users opt in into, yeah, I'm okay for you to check on how well I'm driving, so I can get a discount.
Yeah.
Uh, the discount is significant enough that the people are willing to do that
Wow.
effectively. But it's a very mission-driven company. The goal of Cambridge Mobile Telematics is really to save lives.
Yeah.
Right, so that's the ultimate goal, right? Yeah, it's one way to get there, but it's not the only way. The goal is really that we want to save lives, right? We want to avoid crashes, we want to avoid accidents, and we believe the best way to do that is by incentivizing, educating users to drive better.
That is a very, very great initiative, and combined with the latest technology, I think it's, yeah. And you are leading that team, that
Yes.
mobile sensing.
Well, yeah, so I'm leading the mobile sensing, which is what you have to put on your phone effectively so that
Yeah.
we can capture the right data, can process the data and upload the data so that we can gather those. So ultimately we can come up with those insights of what you're driving.
Well, from that, I would like to kind of bring the attention to your Webby Awards that you won in 2020 and 2022.
Mhm.
Yeah, you've
Mhm.
received an award and been featured in Apple's WWDC 2021 as
Mhm.
keynote, right?
Yeah, the solution was promoted as part of the keynote. Yes.
Right. So
The
what's
product
the
that we
story
created.
behind that? How has this honor? changed, what it means in your career?
So, a couple of things. One is not just about me, right? It's a whole team.
Okay.
And what I mean team is not just engineers, like product leaders, designers. So it's a big reward. I agree, but it's not something I take personally. Oh, I did that. I contributed to it. I hope I had.
Mhm.
But I don't internalize it. Oh, this is my trophy kind of thing. Because it was such a big team effort to get there. So for me, it's almost like a company trophy than something I can own
Mhm.
effectively. So from that standpoint, I don't think I changed anything in some shape or form. Uh, I don't, but uh, it's a, it's great. Or it's great that your work is being recognized in such a way.
Yeah.
Right? Even if your work only contributed to that, it's still great that it ended up being recognized that way, right? But I think the recognition for all these awards and the WWDC keynote was with the fact that effectively we were able to uh, innovate,
Okay.
which it's for all of them, it's kind of an innovation award almost. It's like because we are coming out with an innovative solution, and therefore, thanks to that innovation, we are being recognized for being definitely innovators in different way.
Mhm.
Uh, and for me, I go back to the point that I made at the beginning, which is that that's because you have a strong team, right? You have a diverse team.
Uh-huh.
You have a team that brings different point of view, and that's your team that as a result was able to innovate in that way, right? And that's the people on your team is a culture that results from having these people on your team, and everything that makes it so that you can have a team that can deliver certain results effectively. So from my sense, it's a very indirect thing. Like you need all the things and all these people to be set up the right way at the right time and doing the right things so that you get that, right? So there's a lot of luck. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
at the same time, a luck, but also a good leadership, right? Who really believes in you did your job well. You organize a team quite well, and that's how maybe they could do what they could do as a team.
I hope so. I hope I contribute in some ways, but
I think
I do believe that it's not like every day I'm getting an award, right? So clearly there is something else other than just me that made it happen.
Well, I mean, that is still something to be proud of. And I know that your articles are something as well. Your one of the article was also published somewhere as featured. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, a lot of articles tend to be published effectively by the CIO review, effectively
yeah. Right. We
the
can, yeah.
CIAN.
I know it
So
was a good one on your LinkedIn, I found out. And I went to the articles and there was one or
yeah,
two.
the
That,
National CIO review. Yes, they tend to publish my articles there.
yeah. Well, I think we have covered the journey on the podcast really from how you moved from the countryside to the big state like US and have been to different states within the US and how you transformed your team working with the team with innovation. I think there's a lot that we covered on the podcast today. Right. And is there any one piece of advice that you would like to say to people who are on the similar path, the ones who are into career shift or have this cultural transition in between these emerging technologies? Is there any one piece of advice that you would like to give? How to stay rooted while all this the whole world is changing around?
There are two things. One is that the rotate part is true. Like you have to remember from where you are coming from, always, right? That never goes away. Like you can, I know a lot of people that came to the US. The first thing it is, oh no, we're American. Like we don't care about the country that we came from. And sometimes there is good reason because, maybe there's such traumatic experience
Yeah.
from the country they come from, but I don't believe that's the right thing, right? That's why sometimes people say, oh, we're just going to learn English, speak English at home because that's how the kids are going to be able to assimilate in the country or things like that. I don't think that's right, personally. Like you have to remember where they're coming from. Uh, to be honest, the kids will learn English anyway, so
Yeah.
that's not an issue.
Yeah.
Not an issue whatsoever. So I don't think you have to push for that. On the contrary, you have to keep on pushing to keep your heritage in
Mhm.
some shape. So that's one thing about being rooted, right? Is to do make sure you do that. But on the other side, which is kind of the opposite when you think about it, you have to be very flexible and curious, right? And you need that flexibility to adjust to a lot of different things.
Mhm.
The way of living, in how you work, how you interact with people.
Mhm.
You have to do a lot of adjusting. At least I had to do a lot of adjusting, for sure. And that requires flexibility, and that requires for you to be curious. Right? You need to want to learn new things. You want to get exposed to new things, and that's how you get exposed, and that's how you adjust effectively, so that you can fit, if you want, in your environment. People talk a lot about being your true self and at work and there is some of that, right? You want the workplace to be inclusive so that we can welcome people of different backgrounds and promote the diversity that I mentioned. But at the same time, people have to fit within the work culture. They have to fit within the culture of the country or of the city they are in. And so I do believe it's not a one side, right? Yeah, both sides have to kind of come together in some ways.
I think it's also about the integration, right? The flexibility is, yeah, with embracing willingness to embrace the change around
Mhm.
you, even if it is different. At the end of the day, we all coexist, right? I mean, and there's nothing big or small or right or wrong. I feel like we just have to respect the differences and do our best to integrate, learn, and yeah, like for you, I think so it was the work culture, right? The integration in the work culture. But for the ones who are not into work and they're just taking a break and then moving on into a different country, for them, it is then adapting and integrating into normal daily life. So
Mhm.
a partner will be integrating, that the work culture is different, but the living culture is also quite different. So
Yes.
these are two
Oh
different,
yeah, definitely.
but you have to keep your really the willingness to really adapt but and embrace flexibility is indeed but was it for you sometimes hard to in the beginning, because I'm sure I think we covered so much, but what I didn't really probably cover is the beginning, the moment, first time when you went to outside France. How was it for you? Okay, yes, Montreal. So yes, you spoke French there, right?
Well, Montreal, they speak French, except that the university I was in was an English-speaking university. So no, it was not that obvious because the
Oh, okay.
university you're supposed to speak English, which my English at the time was. I always say it was weird in a way because I think in France you'd learn how to read and write very well.
Right.
So when I took there was an exam to evaluate your level, and I did very well on an exam because it was a written exam.
Mhm.
But then as I read it, they put me in this English class that was a literature English class. I was like, what do I do in there? Like, so during my time there, the one class I worked the most for, and forget about computer science or all the other classes, was actually English because they put me in such a demanding class where you have to create like expose and you have to read like this classic authors and it's like what am I doing? So anyway, that's one way. I think for me the bigger shock was when I came to Texas. So I have a story about that because I
Yeah.
remember at work I just show up And they say, oh, by the way, the person that used to own that thing left, so now you own it. And by the way, we need to have a release tomorrow, so figure it out. It's like, okay. But then they hire this engineer from West Texas.
Mm.
And great guy, but the point is that I could not understand one word of what he was saying. He could not understand one word of what I was saying. And we're like, what do we do? So we started sending each other emails,
Right.
effectively. And it took us a month before we started like understanding each other. And then we became very good friends. So it's a good story. But
So while
so
you
yeah.
was at work, was there something about also food that you had to really adapt and was
Oh
hard?
yes.
I can't really do this. This is because I know
Oh
American
yeah.
French food is really
Well, not only that, but in France, I never got exposed to spicy food, for example. That's not a thing.
okay.
So when I came to the US, I started eating Mexican food, especially in Texas, because I have a lot of Tex-Mex. Yeah, that was different. Now I eat spicy food, no problem. So,
Wow, that's a good way of integration, isn't it? Food,
mhm.
language, work, culture, everything. Check, check, check. Well, I'm really glad we did this podcast, and it took indeed much longer than what we planned and hoped for. But the topics, the conversation that came in, I couldn't stop in between, and I'm glad that I did it. Okay, thank you so much for your time, Arno. For the
Thank you.
ones who would like to connect with you and follow your journey and follow your work, I think again I mean, I'll give the audience, I will put down the link to his LinkedIn so that you can see his work. And I'm sure people will be very curious to know the articles because we have spoken about your articles. And I think you really must read his articles. It's worth reading and to see the analogies between tech and the normal day. It is something that I really liked and I enjoyed it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Appreciate that. Yes, that's the best way to find me. It's on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. And all the best for your next innovation, which is probably, I don't know, at your work. Is there something coming up as a new project that is
Oh, there is always something coming up. I don't think I can talk about it, but yes, I'm not worried about that. If there is one thing that's going to happen, is that new things will come up soon, for sure.
well, thank you. Have a nice weekend.